Welcome to Screen Weens, episode 117. Mm-hmm. With me, London, and that guy.
Thomas.
Today we'll be talking about Denis Villeneuve and 5 of his films.
That's not how you pronounce his name.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
Excuse me.
This is Denis Villeneuve.
I've seen Incendies, and I know how it's pronounced. It's pronounced Denis Villeneuve.
Okay.
No.
You want me to go get Hinatea?
No.
She speaks like...
It's Denis Villeneuve, or something close to that.
We're closer. Yeah, but as always, we're going to talk about random shit and what we've done last week for the next 20 or so minutes. Thomas, anything?
Minecraft and Dune.
It's going to keep going. Have you found a Minecraft Dune server yet?
No, I'm playing on the same server I've been playing on. I've got too much work on there to hop servers at this point.
That's fair. Are you recreating all of Casablanca?
No. So I've got this giant mound of dirt in the sky that I'm going to make into a sky island eventually. But I got bored of just literally making dirt.
Yeah.
Going for dirt, finding it, standing on the edge of it, and trying to expand the sky outwards and filling it in. It's a big pain in the ass.
And you're just doing this all in survival, right? You're not using like MC Edit or anything.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
So I'm just like, all right, I'm bored. But I had this little island underneath of my sky island. So I basically took that apart and I made a glass house that leads underneath. And I'm currently wrapping a giant tank around a shipwreck that's down there. And, I think...
they added shipwrecks to the game, didn't they?
Mm-hmm.
Man, I haven't played Minecraft in a long time.
Yeah.
I played an alpha.
It's pretty, I'm enjoying it. I wish that there were, some more features to it, for sure. I feel like... Yeah,
I played so much modded Minecraft that I, don't know how I would handle, just going back to vanilla Minecraft.
It's, I don't know. I'm having fun with it. It's something I do when I get home and I'm like, I kind of want a game, but I only got an hour or two.
Yeah, it's a nice... It's like a really chill game. You can just kind of pop in and out of it. I don't think there's enough games that are current that are like that, really. There are some games that you can play, a game or two, a lot of competitive shooters. You could do it, but it's just I don't want to do that right before bed. I'm like, that kills me the general. And that's why I've been liking, Elder Scrolls, because I can just, jump in, do, a quest, or just go fight some mobs. That's what I did when I played World of Warcraft. I'm just this is relaxing. And that's why I like Dynasty Warriors. The load times are a little long, but once I'm in, I'm just hitting people and I'm going to bed. It's relaxing experiences. Mm-hmm. And that's what I tend to drift towards now that I'm old. Yeah. It's either that or really intense, strikingly good visual narratives, I guess. Mm-hmm. I like good narratives in video games, or I like something that I can just relax to.
I feel that. That's a big part of my demographic, but yeah. I'll occasionally still play some other stuff.
But didn't watch anything else? Mm-mm. That's okay. Season 3 of What We Do in the Shadows wrapped up.
Oh, yeah?
We just finished that. It's been very fun. I really like that show. I think I like the show more than the movie.
It's fair.
And that's
the scope of it.
Yeah. Obviously, you've spent 30 times more time with the cast, but it's fun. What else did I do? Let's pull out ye old letterbox.
No.
See if I watched anything else. Yeah. So we watched Dune. I watched a movie called Coda, which I'd heard really good things about. It came out this year, and it is Coda stands for Child of Deaf Adults. So the main character is a hearing person, but both her mother, her father, and then also her brother are all deaf. And it's just kind of a small little slice of life, coming of age, movie. You've seen it, the things before, but it has some interesting ideas. I watched it because the main character of Sing Street is in it, just as a supporting character, the guy. And I'm just I'll see what. And it was really sweet. It was really heartwarming. she wants to be a singer, which is like, it's like, but her family doesn't understand. It's like kind of goofy, but there's a scene where they watch her at a recital, and obviously they're just kind of looking at other people's reactions and going like, yeah. But then she's like sitting in the back of like a pickup truck with her dad after the show. And he's like, sing for me. And then he like puts his hand on her like throat so he can like feel the vibration. And it's like goofy, but it was like in that moment, it was so like, I'm like, oh, it was pretty well done. And yeah, the movie's good. I really, really like that movie. It might not be everyone's cup of tea. I don't know if you would like it, but sometimes I like
with those types.
Yeah,
of
sometimes I can just get down with a type of movie. It's a comfy kind of movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then I watched. I watched 2 of the Netflix interactive things because after Bandersnatch, there's been like nothing except. I watched the Boss Baby one.
Oh, they have a boss.
Yeah, it's really fucking bad.
Oh, yeah.
And then I watched the Escape the Undertaker one. Really fucking bad.
Yeah. Those sound like instant classics. I don't know.
Then me and Hinata watched this horror movie called Terrified from a couple years ago. It was a Shudder original.
Terrifier?
Not Terrifier. This one was actually good.
Okay.
It's kind of goofy at times.
What are you trying to say about Terrifier, huh?
I fucking hate Terrifier.
That's fair.
But Terrifier 2, that's going to be movie of the year.
Yeah, whenever it decides to...
Man, what if Terrifier 2 is good? It's not going to be. But what if it was?
Because I think that movie was like... Wasn't it originally slated to come out 2019? And then that year, like, was like, oh...
Yeah, it was like, we're going to put it... And then COVID.
COVID.
Yeah.
But I remember, like, over the course of 2020, through all the pandemic
I feel like
stuff,
we've been talking about Terrifier 2 since the podcast started.
I don't know if that's true. Because I think I watched the first Terrifier after the podcast started.
Maybe. I can see, because I watched it after you were like, hey, this isn't too bad.
I had a kind of fun time with the first Terrifier. Right, it's bad.
I mean, you can talk to my buddy Caleb. He has a tattoo of Art the Clown.
I mean, I don't... Like, they're definitely... It's not good. It's not good by any stretch of the imagination. But damn, it is at least 30 times better than All Hallows Eve.
Yeah, I don't know about third. I don't remember which one I liked more. I just remember hating both of them.
Just All Hallows Eve was like real not good.
Extreme not good territory.
Didn't even have the same actors. Art the Clown.
I watched it April 20th, 2019.
Yeah. I think we were...
I mean, I think that was like a couple weeks after you had watched it. When was the first episode of the podcast? I think it was...
March 2019, maybe? It was like 1 year after Infinity War.
Yeah. I think it was June.
Yeah, maybe.
July 15th.
2019?
Yeah. So we had seen it.
Okay. I guess we have. Damn. Okay.
So maybe we've just been talking about Terrifier 2 this entire time. Somebody's going to be watching this in the future.
They're going to be like, wow, we're 116 episodes in, and I remember them talking about Terrifier 2 on the second episode.
And they'll be like, they're talking about it on episode 230? Is this a real movie? Terrifier 2 is never coming out.
Fingers crossed. But Terrified. That movie's good, supposedly.
Yeah, I don't like the ending at all. But it has some good scares. It has some good acting. I like the structure of it. Yeah, it's not something I'm going to remember very well, but in its moment, it was fine. It was good.
Okay.
And that's mostly what I've been doing. I don't know. We had 5 movies to watch, so it's not like I had a ton of time. And then we've been slowly keeping up with Only Murders in the Building as well. It's a Hulu original. That's the one with I don't know if you've heard of that one, but it's Steve Martin.
Yeah,
Martin Short. And
I caught a scene of it because my mom was watching it one time.
Yeah. It's fun.
It seems all right.
For whatever reason, I actually really like seeing Steve Martin Short, and Selena Gomez together. It's fun. I'm like, they should just remake Three Amigos, but replace Chevy. They should remake every movie they've done with Chevy Chase, but with Selena Gomez in the role.
Yeah, I mean, fair. I don't know.
She's not a dick, apparently. She might be, but.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that'd work because in most of Chevy Chase's comedy dynamic in movies is the fact that he's a dick.
That's true.
So it's like maybe I don't know.
But it's been fun. It has some like interesting twists and like it's pretty well done. It's another thing that I probably like won't write home about when I finish it, but I'll be like, yeah, I finished it. It was fine. And yeah, I watched 2 more episodes of Vikings.
Oh yeah.
Third episode introduced a character that I'm like, this is going to be my favorite character in the series until they kill him. So I'm like actually on board now because I'm like, this is some interesting stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. They end up raiding to the west for the first time. They go to England and they like they enslave a priest. And he's like the slave of like the main character. Mm-hmm. He's a really interesting character. I'm like, I'm going to like this guy. But yeah, that's what I did. That's what I did this week.
Very nice. Oh, jeez, got the hiccups.
Cool. Are we ready to talk about the dude?
Yeah.
I don't think we have any questions this week. I will double check though, just to be certain.
It's probably for the best in case Pierre snuck a few in there.
Nope. No questions. So let's talk real quick about Denis Villeneuve. So yeah, this guy kind of like snuck up on me. Like when I watched Prisoners and then didn't know who he was. That was also when I was, pretty media illiterate. I didn't watch a lot of movies, but I remember loving him the first time I watched it. I was like, wow. Mm-hmm. It's so interesting when like you're not well versed in movies and you see something that just fucking blows your mind.
Yeah. No, I had a very similar experience with Prisoners because I watched it around the time it came out and I was like early high school, late middle school, and I was just like, holy fuck, like everything in that movie just came together like so fucking just like, wow. It was definitely one that did a whopper on me when I was that age. But, yeah.
But yeah, so 2013 rolls around. I don't really know who he is. I watched the movie, I think 2014, and then I watch Arrival in Paris when it came out. Jeez, I'm old. It was 5 years ago. Jesus, fuck. But I watched that in Paris, and it blew me away. And and I still didn't really know who he was. And then 2018 rolls around, I start getting really into movies. 2018 rolls around, and then I start watching, I watch like Enemy. Mm-hmm. I eventually watched Blade Runner. That was another thing. As soon as I watched Blade Runner 2029 and the original back to back, I watched the original, and then I went directly to the theater and watched the new one. Blew me the fuck away. I like 2029 more than the original. I like both quite a bit, but and same thing. It's like every movie I watch from him, I'm just like, holy shit. And it's weird because when I think about my favorite directors, I don't really, at least before today, I was never really associated like his name because I'm just like, and I think goes to show like how good he is because he's able to have such like a unique presence, but also be so palatable to like everyone. Like, not everyone like Blade Runner 2029 here, but like in general. Do I keep saying 2029? What the fuck's wrong with me? I think that's the comic's name. There's like 3 comics running right now. There's Blade Runner Origins, and I think 2029. And then the anime is 2048. I think it's like
2022 or something.
It's going to happen in 2 years? No.
Yeah. Or no, they've got one... I think they've got one that takes place like 2019.
That might be.
I've got the trade paperbacks for like the first 2 volumes of one of the ones that they were doing. I haven't read it yet though. I was waiting to get the whole set.
But yeah, and he's so palatable. And like, look at the new Dune movie. This is like something that people were like, this could never be adapted. And in my opinion, it's like, I haven't read the book, but it seems like a pretty good movie. Yeah. And then also one that's like palatable for people to just watch, but it also like has those underlying themes that you can like really dig your meaty hands into if you want to.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely.
It reminds me of like something like Bong Joon-ho. Like Bong Joon-ho does the same kind of thing. Like his movies are very easy to watch. They're very like entry level. You can like easy to watch, but thematically dense still. Yeah.
I'd say that like the accessibility is a little higher for probably like Bong Joon-ho's movies, aside from the fact that like they've got like subtitles if you're watching them over here, and a lot of people are just like, no, but like because a lot of Denis' work can be darker in tone, which can definitely scare away a lot of people.
Yeah, no, and I don't think that all of his movies, it's interesting because he jumps back and forth. Like some of his movies are just like, no, not everyone's going to like this movie. And then some are just like, no, this is like Arrival, I think, is a pretty easy, accessible movie. Yeah. On the same level as like, I think Snowpiercer is probably Bong Joon-ho's like most accessible film.
That or like Okja, maybe.
Maybe Okja, but like Okja has subtitled out in parts and people are like,
oh, yeah, and in terms of that, yeah. Yeah.
For the common folk of America.
Those who don't like I was watching Prisoners out in the living room and I had my subtitles on and my mom was like, God, why do you read your movies? And I'm just like, why do you care?
Yeah. Also, like, there are so many times, like, I don't want to turn my TV up all the way, especially at night, but, like, sometimes they're whispering. I'm like, it's nice to, like, be able to hear this and or be able to see
that.
This.
And sometimes you unlock secret dialogue that's true. Comes across.
It's like, and it's like, we're going to kill them.
Yeah, there's a specific, in Dune, there's an example of that I didn't pick up the first time watching it in the theater, and then I was watching it on HBO Max second time with the subtitles. And it's the, like, whole, like, Sardaukar reveal, which we'll talk more about that when we get there. But that's, like, completely, like, I didn't hear a fucking thing in the theater, but then, like, I saw the subtitles that basically give away the secret, so to speak. Which I found to be super interesting.
But yeah. Denis Villeneuve, he made a couple movies in, I think, 98 and 2000. And then he took like a 9-year break. I think he was raising his kids, from what I know. And then he came back in 2009 for Polytechnique. That was his return. I'm like, what the fuck, dude? What the fuck? You take 9 years off and they're like, I'm going to make Polytechnique. I'm like, what the fuck? And then he followed that up with Incendies the next year.
Damn.
3 years later was fucking
did
Prisoners.
What year did Rampage come out?
Yeah, I was thinking about Rampage when I was watching it. Obviously, one movie is substantially better, in my opinion.
Absolutely. I think I don't really believe in film objectivity.
Rampage came out the same year.
They came out the same year. I wonder. Oh, man. Because the whole time I was just like, this movie doesn't make me feel good, but it's way better than fucking that movie.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like that movie I don't know. I guess we can get into it when we talk about the movies.
But yeah, and then so he just started making banger after banger. Like, I haven't seen, like, Sicario, but even Sicario, I'd be like, I probably like that movie. Seeing how I like pretty much everything he's put his hands on. Yeah.
What's it called? I've heard pretty good things about that one. And I heard not bad things about the sequel. So
yeah, like he didn't do it, but I've heard it's fine. So Polytechnique, Incendies, and then the next... Yeah, then back-to-back Prisoners, Enemy, both 2013. I'm like, what the fuck? And then Sicario, I think, was 2015?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. And then next year, Arrival, and then, was it 2017? So next year, Blade Runner, and then he's taken a couple years for Dune. Obviously, Dune was supposed to come out already, but...
Yeah.
But yeah, holy shit. Man, what the fuck's wrong with us? We only watch all our director deep dives. They're always just so fucking depressing. Not all of them, but a lot.
To be fair, a lot of like the noteworthy auteur type filmmakers.
We're going to talk about life, how life fucking sucks.
Yeah, it's like that's why like when we pick our normal picks, I feel like most of the time they're pretty light and fluffy, and then the director deep dive, it's like let's get into the fucking misery of the world.
That's why, like, Richard Linklater's director deep dive was such a, like, nice change of pace.
Yeah, there's the occasional one where it's like, this is nice. Like, Agnes Varda was another one of those where it's just like, yes, some wholesomeness.
Besides Vagabond.
Vagabond. And Cleo 5 to 7 had some pretty, like, realistic existential themes. Yeah.
Yeah, but, like, Ingmar Bergman, oof.
Oh, yeah.
Kurosawa, oof. Not
Kurosawa's like real middle of the road. Some of his stuff can be very like political and like harsh, but some of it can also be like pretty just like fantastical and fun.
Yeah, I don't think we're ever gonna hit any like as low as like fucking Lee Chang-dong though. Holy shit! Just every movie felt like he was just kicking us in the teeth.
Yeah, no, that man is like waging a war against God or something. Like. I'm gonna make a movie that starts with a scene where a guy kills himself, and then the rest of the movie's just gonna be working backwards, making you feel bad about it.
But I want to rewatch that movie.
I want to rewatch all of his movies.
Let's do it again.
Round 2. I want to watch his movies that he wrote but didn't direct. But I think I was only able to find like one of them localized over here, and the rest of them were it's like. I don't know. I don't live in South Korea. I don't get access to it.
Yeah.
Which is maybe in a couple years we'll get to the point where accessibility with some of their more niche older titles will become more accessible over here. Fingers crossed.
But it's like movies should just be I'm going to call on my high heart. Movies should be free and accessible to everyone. Like it's such a like good medium for sharing culture. It's like it's so annoying that, and even not if they don't want to make it free, just make it accessible. Like let me rent it, let me stream it.
Yeah, exactly.
Like a lot of newer Korean stuff, like you can find it on like Viki or like even like Netflix has a lot of it or something like that. But it's like older stuff and like older Japanese stuff, you're not.
Good luck.
It's really hard.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate because like there's some stuff like Russian stuff, you can find every fucking Russian thing just on YouTube. Like sweet.
They've got a lot of it on there. But yeah.
You want to just dive into horrifying territory?
Polytechnique's the first one.
Yeah.
Let's go for it.
All right. This is 77 minutes long, and it
shortest
starts.
Of all of them we watched.
Which makes sense. Like it's not.
Yeah, I'm glad this one wasn't 2.5 hours because that would have been a little much.
It starts with the assassin. He's writing a letter to just a suicide note, and he's talking about how feminists have always made him feel bad and ruined his life, so he's going to kill them all. So yeah, right from the beginning, you're like, this is gonna be intense.
Yeah, this is gonna be a real doozy of a picture.
And I mean, this is based on a real shooting.
Yeah, the characters in it. I don't know about the killer, but at least the victims were all, like, fictional, it said.
Yeah, or at least their names were, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the killer, I don't think, is named in it, or at least he's credited as the assassin, which I think is really important. I do not think that giving, like power to a name of, like, a murderer is, like, a good thing.
Yeah, I think that we're well past that point where that lesson's been learned.
But, it should be.
Should be.
Yeah, but no, it's not.
Yeah, fucking, the whole time I was just like, this guy looks like YMS. The guy looks so much like him.
That's the same guy in Incendies as well.
Yeah, I noticed.
Which I had already seen that movie, so I'm like, why is he doing this? He's got to go help his sister.
Yeah.
But yeah, so then it cuts to, like, it just shows a bunch of women. They're just going about their business. One's has an interview for an internship for like a engineering position. Is it like aerospace engineering, I think?
Yeah, I think so.
And the guy immediately is just like, oh, this is surprising. Most women go for this other type of engineering because it's easier to start a family. She's like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
But she, like, gets the internship. There's some moments of dialogue. And then, like, it just kind of starts happening.
Yeah, we very briefly meet a different character named Jeff.
I think it's like Jeffrey or something.
Yeah, Jeff and Val are, like, the two kind of main characters that
this movie has two, like, it shows the whole event through, like, Jeff's eyes, and then it cuts to showing it through, like, Val's eyes.
Well, the intro section is also all Val's, except for, like, the brief little periods where we see the killer.
Yeah. But has shifting perspectives in it.
But yeah, basically the killer walks into Val and Jeff's class, fires his gun off once, and then he's like, all right, split up. Ladies left side, fellas on the right. All right, now fellas, get the fuck out. And then, yeah, he just, he gives a little speech where he's like, you're all feminists. And they're like, we're not. And then just instant fucking fire. And then Val survives, and her friend's still, like, barely alive. But so she tries to, like, kind of run off and get help, but she sees that the killer's, like, still right outside. We're jumping a little forward here because the film's not linear. But then she basically goes back and pretends to be dead with her friend and kind of, like, has to, like, shush her, and it turns out that her friend dies during that whole
And during this time, she thinks that the killer's coming in, and it's Jeff who's, like, checking, like, are they okay?
Back, and then you could tell, like, the whole time he's just like, I don't want to, like, leave these people, but it's like, in that situation, it's like, what would you do?
And then
it's like you could stay there and maybe cause a ruckus and potentially get them killed if they potentially weren't going to be killed.
Yeah,
it's like the possibilities are, like, just in that situation, leave for, like, I don't know. It's just a fucked up situation you don't want to find yourself in.
Yeah, definitely.
But one that is all too common. But
yeah, and then she does survive the events, and then it cuts to her in the future, and she's pregnant.
She's pregnant,
and she's working at, like, on airplanes or whatever. She's doing what she wants to do, and she has, like, a loving partner, but she still has, like, these nightmares. She still thinks about it, and it's something, never forgotten, but it doesn't necessarily, like, define her. And then she, like, writes a letter to the assassin's mother, being like, your son, he's the worst, but I'm pregnant, and if I have a boy, I'll teach him how to love, and if I have a girl, I'll tell her the world is hers, or something like that. And then in Jeff's storyline, he's obviously, like, doesn't want to leave, and he, like, it looks like he might, like, take a stand for a moment, but then the guy, like, points the gun at him, so he leaves, and then he just kind of wanders around
trying to help people,
trying to help or trying to find help. Nobody's, like, the guy doesn't believe him, and he just keeps seeing, like, women die, because the guy, he doesn't kill any men. Or
I think he kills, like, men a couple times if they, like, get in his way or seem like they're
he doesn't target any men. Like, he shoots through men to get a woman or something like that.
Yeah.
But he'll be, like, going through a class, and he's like, oh, woman, and then passes over the man. And then eventually he kills himself.
Yeah.
And then it cuts to Jeff in the future. He visits his mother. His mother's like, I'm really worried about you. And he's like, I'm fine. And she's like, well, if you need anything, let me know. And then he just drives to, like, a tree, and he fucking hooks up the exhaust pipe to his, and then dies. Because he couldn't live with, like, the guilt of, like, not being able to save his friends. And it's like, holy fuck. This movie's, like, weird because, like, you look at these events like this and it's like, should these things be sensationalized? Like, no, obviously. But is this, is making a movie about it inherently a sensationalized, like, event? Like, and I'm like, I think these stories are good to be told.
Yeah.
Like, I think this is one of the best ways to do it. Like, I think it does handle it pretty tactfully. Mm-hmm. I think the characters feel like real people. And I think it's good that we don't know a lot about these characters because it feels like how we would feel if we were just at that school and we saw those people. Like, we would feel that same way, you know? It's like, we feel the loss, but we didn't get to know them. Mm-hmm. And that's the saddest part. Like, they didn't get to live. They didn't get to have their stories told. Mm-hmm. If that makes sense. Like, I think that making those characters more defined would be, I guess, detrimental for what the film was trying to do.
Yeah.
Or, like, it would go against what it was trying to do.
No, I know what you mean. Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. And, I think that, I mean, I haven't watched, like, a lot of, like, the classic school shooting ditties, like Elephant or anything like that.
Yeah, I saw a bunch of people referencing Elephant in, like, the reviews for this. I haven't seen it, but...
Yeah, I know that that's, like, the big one. But I can certainly say, compared to, like, some of the other, like, shooting movies I've seen where it's, like, public shooters, this one's definitely the most, like, tasteful and tactful about it, for sure. Especially compared to fucking Rampage, that movie sensationalizes it.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, it's just I don't know. I don't really have like a whole lot of like substantive thoughts on this one. It's just kind of an experience.
Yeah, no, there aren't a lot of like big themes going on. It wants you to feel things. It wants you to feel emotions, and all that. At the end of the day, that's okay for a movie to do. It's okay for it to like be pretty minimal in its themes. Like, what are its themes? It's like, cool, men are bad. No, not really, but it's like, in general, it's like, cool. Incels will always exist and are a danger to women, and it's important for us to be able to like look at the signs of this and like stop it and believe people when they say like women are in danger.
Oh yeah, and
just in general, be nicer to women. Like, most of the men in this aren't very nice to women, besides like Jeff.
Yeah. No, totally.
But I think that's okay for like it's pretty bare bones and it's like beliefs, and that's okay. Because it does hammer those beliefs in pretty hard.
Yeah. Alright. You would give this one 8 out of 10.
I think I'm at a 7.
So?
I think you'd be at maybe a 7?
Yeah, I think it's...
Obviously, this movie's kind of hard to rate, too.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think I'm ever going to watch this movie again.
Yeah, same. Yeah. But... Incendies.
Incendies.
I don't know how it's...
I think it's Incendies. This is the movie I'd seen before. Or one of the movies I'd seen before. Mm-hmm. This is based on a play.
Oh, okay. I didn't know.
And it's loosely based off of real events as well.
Mm. Makes sense.
And this is legitimately one of the most uncomfortable movies I've ever seen.
It's pretty hardcore.
It's pretty fucking brutal. Like, I talk about a Serbian film a lot. This movie, like, hits me harder than this at times. Like, there's some... Oh, this movie makes me want to throw up. So does the Serbian film, but like...
Yeah. I'd certainly say that this film...
but this one's also more grounded in reality.
Yeah.
Like, a Serbian film does have, like, a fantastic... like, a fantasy, like, aesthetic at times.
It's definitely eccentric and over-exaggerated. Yeah, this film... I'd say, like... I don't necessarily want to jump to the Serbian film comparison because I feel like that would definitely, like, a lot of people would be like, no!
But even something like Martyrs makes me, like, uncomfortable. Martyrs has a lot of moments, like, for, like, really intense movies, it's just,
Yeah.
So, like, Son of Saul as well.
Yeah.
Like, that one's pretty fucking brutal. But, like, this movie just fucking ruins me. It ruined my day today. Like, I love this movie. I'll say it now. But holy fuck, it ruined my day.
Yeah, no, it's definitely kind of a bummer of a movie. So the premise is basically these 2 children. They're not children, they're adults, but they're children of this woman
These
who just
twins.
died. Yes, they're twins. And she is left behind basically as her boss, who is like kind of given the layout of her will, is basically like, all right, I've got this letter that I can give to you, but you got to do this thing before I can give you this letter. And you got to go find your brother. And they're just like, what? Like, we don't have
your brother and your father. Like, our father's dead. They're like, what?
Yeah.
Both of those things are like, what the fuck are you talking about?
So he's just like, no, your mom's not crazy. Like, trust me. Like, just do it. So, like, the brother is like, fuck this. I don't owe her shit. Like, I'm done. Like, I'm out. And then the sister is like, well, I'm gonna follow through. So she starts following some leads and kind of goes on a wild goose chase. She's got a picture and she's like, hey, do you know this person? And someone might be like,
like, I recognize that place. That's a fucking prison.
Yeah, go ask about it over at this section. Yeah. And it kind of goes on like that for a while. And she eventually kind of finds out that her mother was kind of shunned in the community, like kind of has some baggage. Mm-hmm. And while all of her travels are going along, we get these flashbacks throughout her mother's life.
Yeah.
And we find out that basically she was part of like a shame. She was about to like run away with a guy who was, I'm not sure what the specific politics were.
But he was a refugee.
Yeah. And they're like, no, you're going to, like, how dare you embarrass the family? So they execute that guy. Yeah. They take her and they find out she's pregnant. And they're like, all right, well, you're going to have this kid and we're going to get rid of it. But before that happens, they tattoo the kid so that they can recognize it in the future. And the mom's like, I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to, like, go learn. I'm going to go get educated and I'm going to find you one day. And then when shit starts getting pretty, like, politically hot in the country and there's a bunch of, like, just destruction going on, she's like, I got to go find my kid.
Yeah.
And to no avail. And she kind of just finds herself, basically, she becomes, like, kind of like an activist, and she like assassinates a couple people.
She assassinates the leader of the right-wing group.
Yeah.
Like, she kills the leader.
Mm-hmm. And then she goes to prison.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure how I want to tell this. If it's like, do I go like somewhat linearly or
there's like a big twist in this movie.
There is,
and it hits you the first time I watched this. It hit me like a fucking ton of bricks. I was like, you see the daughter's reaction to it, and she's like, that was exactly mine. I'm like,
yeah. I was like, oh, like I had that vague suspicion. I was like, this would be a sick twist, and then it happened,
it did. I'm like,
and I was like, oh,
yeah.
But basically, okay, to get to the meat of it, while she was in this prison, by the way, meanwhile in current timeline, the brother and her boss,
they're all there. They're all on the adventure.
They're all there. They've all partaken, and they all are hell bent on figuring out where the father and the son are.
The orphanage has been like destroyed. They go talk to the warlord that like fucking raised the like whole village. They're just like, what the.
Yeah, no, they go the whole 9 yards. And it gets to the point where the son finds out what happens. And it turns out she was in prison, and she was kind of known as this defiant figure in prison, like a spirit that wouldn't break, because she sang. And she was known as, like, the woman who sings. Mm-hmm. And there was this torturer that the prison had who came in and just sexually assaulted her, like, repeatedly, broke her spirit. And the twist, here it comes. It's her son. Years later, once she's out of there, she comes across, she's at a public pool, and she sees the tattoos from, like, the pool on the heel, and she's like, huh? She goes over and kind of like gets out of the pool and looks at the face, and it's the torturer. And she has that moment of realization where she's like, well, fuck.
Yeah.
And basically the children find this out, and then they deliver a couple letters to him, one for the son, one for the father. And then they leave, and then he sits down and he reads them, and there's the one for the father, which is like, yo, what you did was fucking awful, like, how dare you fucking, like, how dare you kind of shit. And then the fucking one for the son where it's like, alright, well, despite what's happened, like, you're still my son and I still love you, which is just like complicated. It's complicated. And yeah, that's one of the things I really like about Denis Villeneuve's movies is he doesn't like to go like necessarily into like, I mean, he does go into like, he does have like objective statements of like, this is right, this is wrong, but there is a lot of gray area.
Yeah, and obviously this guy's a horrible human being, but like, does that like make that the fact that he's her son like disappear to her? No, like
not to her, at least. But
and how they're separate beings to her as well. Like there's but they find out, and then they deliver those letters to him, and then the movie ends. And yeah, it's just like, and just throughout the whole movie, you just see horrible things. You see, at one point, she's on a bus because she's trying to get to where she thinks her son might be, and it's pulled over by extremists. Christian extremists they're the people that are just like murdering like Muslims in the country.
I don't even think it was pulled over. I almost got the impression that it was like a setup because when she gets on the bus, she's like, are you going to this location? And he just like has this look on his face that's like, he doesn't say anything, but he just kind of gives her this look. So I think he actively knew what he was probably like under the guise of them. They're like, all right, you're going to go grab.
He got killed too.
Well, I mean, yeah, but you know how sometimes that kind of shit happens. I don't know. That was the impression I had got. Maybe they did just get pulled over.
But they just shot up the bus and killed everyone, and then the only people that are alive are her, another woman, and the woman's daughter. And she's like, I'm Christian, let me out. And they let her out, and she like tries to save the daughter. She's like, oh, my daughter. But then they light the bus on fire, and the daughter starts running towards the mother, and they just shoot the kid in the head. And I'm like, holy fuck. Yeah. There's just a lot of that. There's just a lot of that in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, there's also like some really, really good like character moments, like, and you see like this growth of like a woman going through all this trauma, losing her child, losing her partner, and then trying to redefine herself, and then trying to go like this peaceful route for things, and being like, no, I have to be violent. That's the only way that these people will listen. And she like starts killing people. Like there's some really interesting like ideas in this, and this movie's I fucking love this movie. It's like a horrifying watch, but I fucking love this movie.
It was good. I enjoyed it. As much as one can.
Yeah. And I do like the dual protagonists of the mother and the daughter. I think it's like good. I think it works really well. And I think that scenes are split up really well as well. Like, I know sometimes with dual protagonists, they can feel like, oh, we've just been gone from our other protagonists for a long time. But I think it works really well in this.
Yeah. No, I agree.
And I like the fact that the brother's, like, absent from a lot of the movie. Because, like, I think that's an interesting way to, like, show how, like, kids deal with the trauma of losing, like, a parent that they don't necessarily think was a good parent. And how he's just like, I need to leave this behind me. My mother was a bad mother. And she's like, I need to see this through. Maybe I can know why my mother was the way she was. Like, there's a lot of interesting dynamics working. Mm-hmm. And I think having that boss be like, hey, she was a good person. She was nice to me. Like, right from the beginning, there's a bunch of different perspectives.
Oh, yeah.
And then they all kind of just crash together. And then you feel like you're dying.
Yeah. No, definitely. But yeah, this movie is
the Lebanese freedom fighter that the play is kind of based off of. Mm-hmm. That did go to prison and do that. She's still alive.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, damn. Oh, yeah.
Let me pull up her name.
Well, hopefully she's comfortable. But, yeah, this movie. I'm just...
Soha Bachara? Yeah. Yeah, no, this movie is, like, horrifying.
Yeah. No, it's certainly a shock to the senses, that's for sure.
Watching Polytechnique and then this, just, like, almost back-to-back. Like, I went to watch Polytechnique and went to bed, and then for a couple of years, I was just like, my heart hurts.
Yeah, I watched Arrival first today, and then I watched Polytechnique, and then this. So.
Oh, Jesus.
I got just...
I should have fucking ended with Arrival.
Yeah, right?
But yeah.
You would give this one 8 out of 10.
No, I give this one a 10.
10.
I really like this movie. Honestly, this might be my favorite Denis Villeneuve film as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's tied with that or something else. I think you'll give this one a 7.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yes.
Just talk about another horrifying movie, Prisoners. But at least this one, this one has a little hope to it at the very least.
Yeah.
This one's like, lots of good versus evil, but there is at least good in the world, it seems.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, this movie's great. I love this one.
Slaps, as the kids say.
Yes. It's also a very upsetting movie. There are some pretty graphic, there's not a lot of, on-screen violence, but you do see the result of a lot of violence, and there's a lot of implied violence. And it's pretty rough. It's pretty rough to watch. But, yeah, this movie's fucking something. So we follow a guy named Keller something, and he's played by Hugh Jackman, who I shall probably just call Hugh Jackman throughout the rest of this segment. And then Loki, who is... Detective Loki, who is played by Jake Gyllenhaal, who I might call Loki, because it's a little easier than saying Jake Gyllenhaal, but I don't know.
The Gyllinator. And then Terrence Howard.
Terrence Howard.
Viola Davis. This movie's pretty stacked.
Yeah, I forgot Viola Davis was in this, and then I was like, whoa!
I can never remember his name, but he's like Polka Dot Man, and he's in like Dune.
Yeah. He's also in like Blade Runner 2049.
Yeah. He's great. He's a really good character actor.
He is. I want to see him. Denis, give him a leading role in one of your smaller movies after the Dune trilogy or something. Especially since you didn't give him his due as Piter. I mean, come on. I'll get into that when we talk about Dune. Anyway, so yeah. Prisoners. So this is a movie about a man who is like the typical, like kind of like conservative American archetype. He
loves his family. He loves his truck. He loves hunting.
He loves loves hunting. He's clearly a religious man. Yeah. He sings the national anthem in the shower. So like he is like the all-bred like American dad, family guy, Cleveland show. He's like that kind of a figure. But so his daughter gets kidnapped. Basically, like she's got like a little red whistle that she wants to go find with the friend's daughter, who's
Ava. Is that her name? Anna.
And I think Anna. Yeah, it's Anna and something else. But the two of them leave to go find this red whistle. And when they ask to leave, Hugh Jackman's like, yeah, just get your older brother and sister to go with you, and it'll be fine.
Oh, Anna is their daughter, and then Joy's the other daughter.
Yes, okay. So Anna and Joy leave, assumingly without having ever gone and asked their siblings. And they get abducted.
They don't come back.
And they had gone on a walk earlier where the girls had like climbed up onto this RV that was parked outside of this abandoned house. And they were like, oh, someone's inside. So they left thinking that was creepy and weird. And then it only becomes relevant when the girls go missing again. So they're like, all right, well, we got to find this RV. And then Detective Loki, who is trying to haggle his way out of paying full price for some Chinese food, comes across the RV and he's like, all right, I'm gonna approach, and then ends up scaring Paul Dano, who is playing, I forget his character's name.
Alex Jones.
Yeah. That's right. Oh, that's great. Anyway, scares Alex Jones, and Alex Jones just tries to take off, but he just drives straight into a tree. So pulls him out, kind of does some questionable interrogation tactics, you know.
He beats the shit out of him. Scares the shit out of him.
Yeah. And fucking, I don't think he beats the shit out of him, but he gets like real close. He's like pounding the wall next to him. I don't think he assaults anyone until later in the film. But yeah, so he's trying to intimidate the shit out of this guy, and then he comes to the conclusion, like, all right, this guy's got like the mind capacity of like a 10-year-old. Yeah. So I don't really think he would have been capable of like putting together this abduction. So he tries to explain this to the family, and the Hugh Jackman's just like, how could he drive a car then? Why does he have a driver's license?
What if there's another person?
10-year-old. And it's like, all right, I get it, but like he's just trying to get him to calm down and be like, look, I'm trying to operate within the bounds of the system. And that's one of the things that I found like really interesting about this movie, is kind of like the line between like vigilantism and like faith in the system.
Well, yeah, and that's what's so interesting is, in my opinion, I think that Keller and Loki are like the exact same character. Yeah. Just one has a position of power. Mm-hmm. Obviously, Keller goes to like bigger means, but they're very, very similar characters. They're both religious. Loki doesn't talk about it, but there's a scene where Hugh Jackman's like in the bathroom, and you see his like cross on his
and he's also got like a Freemasonry ring and like a Star of David on his neck.
But the very next scene, it cuts to Detective Loki, and he has the cross on his hand or something. So it's like, you know,
and
they're both hard-headed, and they don't listen to each other, because like it's so like aggravating about this movie, and what makes it really good is like there are things that Keller says at the beginning that if Loki had listened to what like he was actually saying, probably would have just been like, oh yeah, it must have been this. Easy. Done. Like, I guess we'll get into it now. Like when he's like, how was he able to drive? There has to be another person. Like of course there was another person. Loki just didn't want to like listen to people, because he was also power hungry, because he like never lost a case. He did, he was the top. And then when he doesn't solve this case, then he starts descending into like what Keller feels and how Keller acts.
There's also like, I feel like Loki tries to have, he feels like as a cop, he needs to have like a certain level of like objectivism and like kind of a disassociation. So he's not very warm or comforting towards the family at all, which also I think adds to it. And also the fact, one of the big like strings of conflict that happens between Keller and Loki is that Keller is like, look, I understand, like, you can't hold him without like any sort of just cause. I'm asking you to like find a way, bend the rules, and like hold this guy for a little longer. But Loki, to be fair, in his credit, he does try to like talk his chief into it, but then that kind of gets undermined when you watch him break rules later in the movie. Yeah. Like when he goes into the father's house. Under just cause, but once he sees that it's not an emergency anymore, he starts snooping around. And, I mean, it ends with him kind of getting a puzzle piece that he needed. But it's still one of those things where it's like, all right, you were willing to break the rules for this motive, but not this arguably more noble motive, but at the same point, like, that's what I like about this movie, because it's like, is it a more noble motive? Because it's like,
you're also preying upon like somebody who's
potentially innocent and like I mean, I don't know if we want to hop into the actual revelation of the film yet or not, but
yeah, sure.
It turns out he was there, but he wasn't. He was like a kind of participant, but he wasn't the one who was like, yeah, let's kidnap these kids. He was like, I want to play with these kids, and then his aunt was the one who's like, we're gonna kidnap these kids. And I think it's also implied that she was the one driving, because, I mean, the one scene where we do see him drive the RV, he instantly crashes into a tree. Yeah. So it's like, and
there's a bunch of like things that are revealed throughout it. Like Alex Jones isn't Alex Jones. He was kidnapped by them. He was the first one that was kidnapped, and it shows like a woman. Loki talks to a woman who's like the actual mother,
kidnapped from the house that the RV was parked in front of.
Whoever plays Polka Dot Man, whatever his name was,
he was abducted.
He was the second, and then he escaped, right, or something like that.
He escaped, or they let him go. I think,
but
they like basically like brainwashed him and like just absolutely fucked with his psyche to the point where now he's an adult and he's just trying to take credit for child murders that he didn't commit.
Well, and I don't even necessarily think he was trying to take credit. I think he was just
maybe trying to give closure. Some.
Well, I think he was also just trying to. I think he felt that urge to kill those children, so he was a lot of that time he was just trying to relive that without actually hurting anyone. Because they find a bunch of like those kids' clothes that were missing, and they were just covered in like pig's blood or something, and he had just gone into their houses and like stolen the clothes. And
then
he's a really interesting character that like we don't get a lot of time with, so we don't necessarily know those motivations, but like there's some interesting interpretation that's open there.
And then when he goes into the father's house, and the father is like a reverend,
but he was also a child molester, or at least a sexual offender. I don't know if I think he's like I have like 9 sexual offenders in the like 3-mile radius.
He doesn't get into specifics, but you can kind of, you're left to assume. But then he finds he snoops around his house, finds a corpse in his basement.
The basement, which has no stairs anymore,
and he's just like, who is this? And he's like, well, he came to me one night, confessed to a bunch of child murders, so I pushed him down there and I killed him. And so
they don't believe him, but like, it turns out to be that. And this is like re-watching this. When I first watched this, like, I didn't put any of the pieces together until they just told me at the end. And re-watching this, I'm like, how the fuck did I not put any of the pieces together?
See, I was thinking that, but for Loki, I was like, how did Loki not like...
Yeah, well, and I think that's like that ego thing. He's like, so, like, he's doing everything. He's not, like, looking at things anymore. He's like, no, I got this. It has to be this. He's not able to, like, take a step back, which I'm fine with. But me, I'm just like, what the fuck? Like, she literally is like, yeah, Dad left. Never came back. And then the next, like, 2 scenes later, it's like, yeah, he came to me a couple of years ago. And, I killed him. Like, but throughout the whole movie, Keller kidnaps Alex Jones and just tortures him all day.
Yeah.
He, like, beats the shit out of him. And then he puts him into a room with the shower.
Boiling hot water.
Either freezing cold or boiling hot water. And, that doesn't do, like, anything ever.
Yeah.
But they eventually figure it out. He goes to the house, and he tries to get his daughter back, but he's immediately, like, has a gun pointed at him. He's pushed into a hole.
Yeah.
And then Loki figures it out.
I love that scene where he's like, if you're gonna want me to get into this hole, you're gonna have to shoot me. So she just shoots him in the leg. He's like, oh god, and just instantly climbs down. It's one, like, obviously that's probably how it would happen. It's just one of those, like, dark kind of sense of humor scenes. But yeah, basically he gets down there and she explains her whole premise because the Reverend had mentioned this when he mentioned the guy he had killed. He's like, I killed this guy because he said he was waging a war against God. And then the aunt expresses that at the end. She's like, we're waging a war against God. We're turning good men into demons, essentially.
Because they had lost their child. So like, now we're just going to fucking take children from other people.
Make people lose their faith. And he goes down into the hole and he prays and he's like, just someone save my daughter. Yeah. And then Loki just so happens, because he found Alex earlier.
Yeah, so he was going there just to be like, hey, well, so I found Alex. But instead he sees like the picture of the husband with the pendant with the maze. Mm-hmm. There's a whole maze thing going on.
Yeah, there's a lot of maze symbology. And then he puts it together real quick, goes into the other room, sees her poisoning Anna, and he's like, they get into a shoot-off. She shoots him in the fucking head, and he's just like...
And then he's just... that scene, I was like,
yeah, that's definitely like the big climactic scene where he's just like driving through the rain.
Like, don't die
blood
on me.
In his eyes, and the girl's like in the backseat foaming at the mouth, and he's just like, I'm gonna save you!
I'm like, ah!
Yeah, and then... from there, he's at the hospital, has a scene where, Anna kind of comes in to say thank you, but she's just kind of like stoic at this point, which fair. And
then he goes back to the house. He's like, if we ever see him, he's gonna fucking go to prison for a really long time.
His wife's like, is he gonna go to jail? And he's like, yeah, probably.
But he goes back to the house because they're excavating everywhere because like, there's got to be other dead bodies here. But it's about to freeze, so he's about to leave, and then Hugh Jackman had the red whistle from that they got, and it was down in the pit. So you hear just a faint whistling, and then it cuts as soon as he looks over to like where the whistling coming from.
Mm. And this movie's just about like keeping faith, not necessarily in like a god, but just in a situation. Because I think that's kind of what Loki's supposed to represent. Because he's got like a bunch of different like religious symbols on him. So I don't think it necessarily is trying to be like this one religion, the faith for that, but just faith in general, faith, hope. Don't
even faith or hope in other people, because that's at the end of the day how it happened, how they caught everyone, I guess.
Yeah, because like if they had faith in each other the whole time, they might have got things done a little sooner. Instead of Hugh Jackman's character being like, I'm acting extremely suspicious because I'm torturing a man who is missing and kind of distracting you from, why aren't you looking for my daughter? It's like, what? Why are you doing this? It's just like, but this is a good one. I don't think I have a favorite Denis Villeneuve film.
That's fair.
I think that there's kind of like a three-way tie at the top.
That's fair. I get it.
And this is one of them.
I think this movie's like pretty fantastic. I think the performances are like really good. Mm-hmm. From like everyone. I really like the wife's performance, Keller's wife. I don't know who plays her, but she's like... a lot of the beginning is she's like, no, they ran away. She's like in complete denial because she doesn't want to think about the fact that like if they didn't run away, they might just be dead. Like,
and then she kind of like displays the kind of like negative side of like the one. I'm trying to think of like a good term for it, like the one who shoulders all the responsibility in a family. Like there shouldn't be that type of a figure, but a lot of families do put that on like the father due to like whatever their like conservative philosophies may be. And this kind of shows like, because like the second like anything because shit happens, like it's not like, Keller's fault that his daughter was kidnapped.
But she was like, why did you let this happen?
You made me feel safe, and we're not safe. What is this? How dare you? You're the reason she's gone. And it's like just one of those things where it's like, oof. And then he starts getting into beyond the destructive to others. He also starts like drinking. There's like a scene where he has a big confrontation with his teenage son, who is just basically like, where are you going? What, like, you like, want...
I know, I can smell it on your breath. Why are you leaving
also,
us? We need you.
We know that Anna's dead, basically, because at that point the police think she's dead because they found the clothes, and he's like, we need to tell Mom, and Hugh Jackman's like, no,
don't give up on your sister.
And
that kid, he's like the kid from like 13 Reasons Why. He's actually pretty good in this.
Isn't he in like the Maze Runner movies or something?
No,
like that?
He just looks like that guy.
Oh, I see.
He and Taya was like, is that Percy Jackson? Like, I'm like, no. They just all look the same.
Yeah, that era had a lot of those people that just like looked a lot alike. But yeah, Prisoners. Yeah. This is a good movie.
Yeah.
It's a tough one, but it's definitely, compared to like his earlier work, it's like night and day. Like this is the start of like more hopeful.
Yeah.
Because he's always going to have like those dark themes, but I'd say like from this point on, aside from maybe like of what I've seen, I haven't seen all of his movies, but aside
maybe
from
Sicario's the most depressing movie I'll ever see.
Perhaps.
I doubt,
but like aside from maybe like Enemy, I think that like pretty much his films from here that I've seen have been more hopeful generally.
Yeah. No, I agree.
But yeah, no. You would give this one an 8.
A 9.
A 9. Okay.
I think you might give this a 9.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. Arrival. With Hawkeye.
Jeremy Renner.
Hey, he's actually pretty decent in this. He doesn't have a ton of scenes. But.
I haven't watched like a shit ton of Jeremy Renner movies, but I can
want to.
Yeah, I can say that based off of what I've seen from just him generally and like a lot of the action type movies he's in. I don't think he works in that kind of a role. But this movie, he kind of plays a dork.
Yeah, he's a dork. He looks like a dork.
He is. Yeah, he totally like has a completely different demeanor about him in this movie than he does in other movies. And I'm like, is this what he's really like? Because I actually like this. But instead of like the stoic, like Hawkeye badass kind of thing that he normally goes for in a lot of his other movies. Yeah. It's just like, yeah, more stuff like this, please. Yeah. But, yeah, Arrival.
Amy Adams. Yeah. She is incredible. Oh.
She plays a linguist who kind of gets hired on to basically try and translate, because 12 alien spacecrafts have landed on Earth and nobody knows what the fuck they want. So, you know, each nation or each specific location is like trying to figure out what the fuck. And Amy Adams is brought on and she starts making some genuine progress. And meanwhile, she's having all these like lucid kind of like memories, because the movie starts off with basically a kind of montage of scenes of like Amy Adams and her daughter. The father left, but the daughter kind of grows up and eventually gets cancer and passes away. And we get like little flashes of this throughout the movie. And like the more that she becomes in tune with their language, the more vivid these memories become. Because they explain like basically like the language you speak dictates the way your mind kind of processes things.
Yeah.
So we speak the English language, so we've got like a very like just kind of straight across. And I'm sure it's the same with most human languages.
Yeah. Also, apparently, like, this theory isn't correct, from what I know. Like, that's not a real, like, it's been disproven. But
it was something that I, like, was watching in the movie. I'm like, all right, this is sci-fi mumbo-jumbo bullshit. But
I mean, it's a real theory. It's just not true, apparently.
Yeah, it works in the context of the movie. Although, I think the thing about it that gets revealed is a little... I don't know how I feel about it. I'm real kind of like in the middle on this movie. I generally liked it, but there were definitely some things about the plot that I was just like, I don't like that.
I love most of this movie personally, and then there's some things that just piss me off. I'm like, what the fuck?
Like how the film kind of resolves is just like.
Really? I actually don't mind that scene. I just don't like the the way that the movie treats China, Russia, and Sudan is like, oh, these big threats, like, and it's like one thing, but then America is just like, no, we're listening to our scientists. I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah, no, see, to be fair, I didn't really get... I understand that to a certain extent, but I feel like the film was trying to kind of be like, nah, America's like a dick too. They're just like less aware about it.
Yeah, but still, I'm just like, they specifically talk about China so much. I'm like, this seems a little bit racist here. Like, and they're like, why didn't you make like the British? Why? I feel like the British would do this. I feel like they'd be like, no, fucking shoot that thing.
We would do that.
That's what I'm saying. And I'm like, you can't fucking...
I mean, in terms of, like, the public response, that does seem to be the popular opinion from what they show of, like, people on TV, and they have, like, the jabs at, like, Fox News.
But a lot of that stuff is mostly what I'm annoyed with, is how they treat, like, other countries in this. Especially because Denis Villeneuve isn't even American, so I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah. But, what's it called? Yeah. I guess, do we just want to dive into one thing? The way that their language works is they can see everything at once, pretty much, and they form things from the beginning and the end, and it reaches the middle. And as Amy Adams learns more of their language, she starts seeing both, like, the end of her journey and the beginning. Like, she's there in the present, but she also sees the end of the journey with, like, everything surrounding her. She sees, like, her daughter grow up and then die, pretty much. And then it's revealed, like, oh, it's Hawkeye. She marries Hawkeye. They have a kid. And then eventually she tells him that, our kid's gonna die of cancer. So he leaves because he can't possibly deal with that, knowing that. And she's like, and she asked him at one point, it was like, if you knew how something would end, would you change it? And he's like, no, or something like that. He's like, I'd probably just say how I felt more often.
Yeah.
I wish that this movie, instead of being like, yes, congratulations, you've learned our language, you've got the full novelization of your life, you can read every detail, like, I don't like that, because, like, the scene... Basically, because she's got a piece of the puzzle. America does, and so do the other locations. And they need to combine all of this information, but they can't, because this is kind of like a test to see if they can get humans to, like, work together.
Yeah.
Since, obviously, like, different
And they
nations.
also say that, like, in, like, 3,000 years, we're going to need your help or something.
Yeah, there's a bit of a lore planted there. But,
for Arrival 2. Departure.
Yeah, right. Don't give them any ideas.
That'd be fine. I'd be like, cool. I want them. Yeah. It's part of the Dune universe, actually.
Make it, if they genuinely, like, make it 30 years from now, that'd be pretty cool, though. But basically, like, it comes down to, like, because China's being so stubborn because their general's just like, no war on aliens. So, Amy Adams has this vision where she's like, it's the future. And this general comes up to her and he's like, man, I'm so glad that you called me on my private number. She's like, I don't have your private number. He's like, my private number. And then he's like, and you also said my wife's dying words. And then tells her, and it's just like, I see, if it was like... she had pieces, but didn't know the full picture, I would be much more forgiving of it, because it would be more interesting. But to me, it feels like a non-conflict. It's just like, you're going to do this thing, you did it, and there's no tension. At least for me, I didn't feel the tension.
I mean, I felt tension before that moment, but I don't know. I like that idea. I like that... obviously it gets really weird into, like, time, like, how that works, and, like, it doesn't make sense from the scheme of like how our time works. Like it only works if this was already going to happen, if time works differently than we're like thinking. But I thought it was interesting, and I don't know. I like the scene fine. It's a little hokey, but I like it personally.
See, I think that honestly, and it gave me like major Sign flashbacks, and I think if they had done it the way that Signs had done it, where it's like maybe just like she's just like I don't know why, but like I've had this Chinese phrase just like embedded into me, and maybe they can get into like the meaning of it a little bit or something, have it be something thematically relevant to the movie, and then it gets to this point where it clicks, and she has to like actively like go get his private number, not just like, oh, Vision Me shows you from the future. Yeah. It's just like... And also, like, if that happened, why would... Or I guess she has to, like, play to the stuff specifically so it happens the way it happened in her vision. That way nothing gets obscured. Yeah. Because, time travel.
Yeah. Like, obviously, a lot of it doesn't make sense, which I'm fine with time stuff. Like, I don't care.
I will... Here are my general thoughts on this movie. I wasn't a huge fan of it, but I found it charming and enjoyable nonetheless. So, like, in terms of, like, what it accomplishes, I wasn't, like, blown away or anything. I was like, this is whatever. I think that this is, out of all of his films that I've seen, probably the weakest for me. But, I mean, it was fine. I don't dislike it or hate it or anything. It was just like, I think that it just had those bits of plot that I really didn't mesh with.
I think I agree with most of what you're saying. I think I'm more positive on the movie than you. When I first watched it, I fucking loved this movie. I really, really was like blown away by it. Rewatching it, I'm like, I still really enjoy it. And I really like the interactions with like Abbott and Costello, the aliens, and Amy Adams. Like those scenes, I think are like really, really good. And really fun.
Definitely the highlight of the movie.
And I like what the movie's going for overall. And I think, like, it has a good score. I think it looks nice. Like, that, but I get what you're saying. I think I probably would say that I also think it might be his weakest. However, I will also say that there's no way in the world that I would ever watch Polytechnique over this. Like, if I was going to rewatch one, I'd be like, I'm going to rewatch Arrival because I don't want to feel like hell.
I mean, yeah, I think I generally more often be in the mood to, like, watch the movie where fucking Jeremy Renner's a dork over the movie where
Amy Adams, like,
a man targets a bunch of women.
Squid guy who's actually, like, just a big toe or something.
Yeah, but I liked the general concept of like the linguist trying to get in contact. That's something in Star Trek Enterprise. They have a whole character named Hoshi, and that's kind of like her gimmick throughout the series.
You're gonna make me want to watch Enterprise.
I mean, she's honestly one of the most interesting ideas in Enterprise. Unfortunately, they never give her the proper shine she deserves.
Okay, never gonna watch Enterprise.
But, yeah, so I kind of had fun throughout, like, the majority of the film going, like, haha, this reminds me of Starship Enterprise, or Star Trek Enterprise. The show where the guy's named Stinky. There's this whole fucking thing where the weapons guy on that ship named Malcolm, he has a scene with T'Pol, who is, like, the Vulcan, I think she's a scientific officer in the series? Yeah, I think so. But he has this whole fantasy where they come back from the thing. And she's like, oh, you humans, you reek. And he's like, yeah, you can call me Stinky. So every time I see him, I just think Stinky. But it's one of those really jarring and weird fucking Star Trek moments that you would only get from Enterprise. But that series is so bad, but I kind of love it. I don't know how to describe. But we're not here talking about Star Trek Enterprise. That's going to be next week. Just kidding. It's not going to be next week.
I cannot do it this week.
No, it's not going to be Star Trek Enterprise.
It's going to be every Star Trek
I don't know if I can ever subject maybe to a handful of episodes or something in the future, but I don't know. It's Arrival.
I think it's really good, but I understand where you're coming from, and I understand like why you weren't too hot on it. But yeah. Amy Adams is fantastic in it.
Yes,
I love her.
I really have to pee. Can I take a quick piss break?
Yeah, let's do the ratings, and then we'll take a break before we talk about Dune.
Sounds good.
I think you'd give this one a 6.
Yeah.
Okay.
You would give this one 7 or an 8.
I was thinking 8, but I think on talking about it more and like thinking about it, probably 7. So yeah, you're right. 7. We're going to take a quick break. I'm going to eat some food. Thomas is going to piss. We'll be back to talk about Dune. Yes. Dune.
Dune.
I love this movie.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
I love this movie.
Pretty good.
So what are your top 3?
My top 3?
Yeah. Is Dune one of them?
Yeah. Oh. Dune, Blade Runner 2049, Prisoners, Enemy. So top 4.
Well, top 3 with 4 things. Perfect. I think Dune is like... I love sci-fi, and I love like really, really like kind of goofy sci-fi that takes itself really seriously. Mm-hmm. Dune's like exactly what I've been looking for. To like scratch that kind of Star Wars itch, because some Star Wars things have been letting me down.
It's definitely, I've read a little bit of the book, and I'm not going to jump into a lot of the book comparisons, because A, I'm not finished, and B, you haven't read the book. Mm-hmm. But, it's certainly like a pretty good adaptation. They definitely like, there's a lot of scenes that happen in this movie that at least so far haven't happened in the book. Mm-hmm. In terms of like the earlier stuff, like an example, the scene where they introduce the voice over breakfast, where she's like, "Tell me to give you the water." Like that stuff's like not in the book.
It just kind of have it.
Yeah, at least to the point where I'm at. Uh-huh. But they've already kind of explained the voice a little bit, because the book opens with like the Gom Jabbar scene. Mm. This is a pretty good adaptation from what I can tell. Like it seems to really capture the spirit of the book for the most part. I don't know if it goes necessarily deep into like a lot of like the weird stuff about Dune. I hear it's a little watered down and trying to be like more accessible, but I get that. It's a big budget sci-fi film. Yeah. I think it does it pretty successfully from what I'm able to gauge. I will just say, real sad that Phase is not in this movie.
Phase?
It's Fade. It's Fade. That's Sting's character from the original.
Oh, that's the brother. He'll be in the second one, right?
He'll probably be in the second one, unless they're trying to morph him into Dave Bautista's character.
Because that's Dave Bautista's character's like brother in the book.
Yeah, right? His younger brother, who's set in line to take over the Harkonnen lineage. Like Vladimir Harkonnen's like kind of like prepping him up.
Sting's coming back. He's gonna play him again.
That'd be pretty good. So I'm interested.
Doesn't he have like a huge fight? Wasn't that one of like the big fights in Dune?
Yeah, he's like a pretty major antagonist. So I'd be surprised if they just like didn't, especially since he's like he's literally like the inverse of Paul, because he's the Harkonnen equivalent. And if Jessica had done what the lady, or what the Bene Gesserit had wanted and gave birth to a daughter, that daughter would have married Fade. And that's like the whole, a big part of the driving conflict, because they thought that the chosen one, because I can't remember the specific term that they use, because they use a lot of different terms for some pretty similar, but also kind of different chosen ones throughout the movie, because there's a lot of like, we're going to just like plant this seed that might come in handy if we ever need like some Bene Gesserit help on the planet. So there's a lot of like terminology that kind of gets intermixed in there that's hard to kind of keep up with, at least at the point where I'm at.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I get you.
So yeah, I don't know. That's what would have happened, but it didn't, so now they must be enemies.
Or gay lovers.
Or gay lovers, which would be very fitting because, Vladimir Harkonnen's gay as shit. But you don't really get that in this movie. But, like, in the David Lynch version and like apparently the sci-fi miniseries in the book, he's really into like younger like guys, like, and he even is like supposedly like grooming Fade on like all accounts. So it's like one of those things. He's very much like a sexual deviant of a character, villain type. But yeah, Dune is the story of
Paul and the House of Atreides.
Yes.
And the worm.
This movie is totally pro white savior. No, I'm just joking. That's not a serious statement, but that's a pretty common criticism.
Yeah, and I'm like, isn't it like the exact opposite? Yeah. Like, I know that obviously it'll be more revealed in the second one, but even watching this, I'm like, I feel like
there are hints. The book gets a little bit more specific.
Opposite, yeah.
The book definitely gets a little more specific, but yeah, no, you can definitely tell that it's like not going for that. But I guess on the surface level, if you don't really read into it, you can kind of see it that way. But the story is basically there's a galactic empire, and it's all run on this stuff called spice that allows for intergalactic travel. Spice can only be found on the desert planet of Dune or Arrakis. Yeah. Its proper name is Arrakis, but its nickname is Dune. And it's due to the deserts and the sandworms make it. And yeah, apparently Arrakis could be this like beautiful blue planet, but
yeah, they were gonna come terraform it, and they're like, nope.
Actually, wait. This other substance on here is way more valuable, so we're just gonna leave it how it is. We're gonna sabotage all the like well systems that we put on here, and we're just gonna keep mining for spice and oppressing the
Fremen.
The Fremen. I always want to call them the Gemen. That's not right. The Fremen who live on this planet, and basically, so Arrakis has been under this family known as the Harkonnens. That is the general pronunciation, but throughout the movie they call them the Harkonnens.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, they're the Harkonnens. Get it right.
I think it's fine.
It's one of those things, but now that I've opened myself into the realm of like the general consensus, what it's been for the last like
I think it's funnier
40 years. Yeah, it's just like, and our main character, Polytechnique.
His name is Paul, actually.
Paul.
Duncan Idaho.
Yes. Ohio. Oh, no.
Duncan.
Not Ohio, it's Idaho, that's right.
Duncan Idaho.
Ah, yes, my favorite movie based off my favorite sci-fi novel, Dunny. But, yeah, so basically, there's this really charismatic leader who's like really influential a lot amongst like the powerful houses in the Galactic Empire. He's known as Leto,
Yeah.
Duke Leto Atreides.
So hot.
And he's played by Oscar Isaac.
He's so hot in this movie.
Yeah, Oscar Isaac fucking kills it. He's a very charming, humanist kind of character. He really cares about people.
Obviously, he's still like kind of a, the lord of a planet.
He's got his politician ways, but in terms of general politicians, he's probably like the cream of the crop. About close to as good as you can get, at least in terms of what's been presented in the Dune universe. And I really like that the book goes into it a little more, but the movie does get into like his father and like the symbology of like the bull and the horns. But basically, like, there's a line from the book where Jessica's straight up like, like there's the man I love, Leto, and then there's the kind of politician part of him that his father created, and I hate that part of him. So it's kind of interesting, but the movie doesn't explore him that deeply. But you do get some hints here and there. But yeah, basically, Leto has been put in charge of this planet, and basically there's a big plan where they're going to sabotage his spice production, which is going to cause the houses to declare war on him. This is all a big plan by the Emperor, who wants to weaken both the Harkonnen and the Atreides houses. That way, he's stronger and more powerful because he feels threatened by their power, which is growing in their current times. So he sends the Atreides down there, sabotages their plan, or their spice mining. Meanwhile, like Paul, he's on the planet. He's kind of like just getting used to change in life. He's preparing for the worst. He's like friends with there's characters like Gurney, who is kind of like the bodyguard role, so to speak. And he trains him in combat. They've got the slow shield things where it's only slow things can penetrate the shield after a certain amount of time. So it's you got to be kind of weird and crafty with how you fight.
Yeah.
But yeah, turns out they're doing all this preparation. Duke Leto's got this plan for basically gaining the Fremen on his side. He's
we need the desert power.
He's I can tell that the Harkonnen house has got the Sardaukar on their side. And the Sardaukar is the Emperor's army. Yeah. They're the real deal. But it's a secret. No one's supposed to really be talking about it. But it's one of those things where it's yeah, he's got the Sardaukar on their side. I need desert power. I need some strong-willed, great fighters, and the people of this planet have been oppressed. I can maybe do my best for them and get something out of it too. So that's kind of his mindset.
But at the same time, he also knows that he's kind of being sent there to die. He's there's a chance I'm just gonna fucking die here.
No, they acknowledge. And the thing I love about the book, sorry to go into the book again, but the book, there are just pages where it's just explaining real political strategy or stuff like this. He's because there's a scene where Paul's if we know it's a trap, why are we going there? And it's well, you don't want to let them know that you know about the trap, or else they're just going to come and murk you. You got to kind of play from a certain vantage point. Mm-hmm. And I that's part of the reason why I'm really liking the book, because it goes into lots of actual stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, basically, so Paul's kind of been prepping for the worst. Some of the Bene Gesserit come to test him and see if he's worthy of living or not, because he's been trained in their ways, and they don't want to train any
men.
Basically, they don't want to train anyone who doesn't have control over their animalistic instincts, essentially, who's impulsive and will make wrong decisions in panic. So they put him through this test called Gom Jabbar, where they put his hand in, and it's the worst pain imaginable. But if he removes his hand, he's going to get stabbed with a poisonous needle.
Yeah.
So it's basically a test is willpower and restraint. And yeah, he's part of a breeding program that the Bene Gesserit has been setting up for thousands of years through
just
thousands
slow eugenics, pretty much.
Essentially, yeah. And he was supposed to be born a woman so he could be slapped together with the House of Harkonnen, and they could give birth to the Chosen One, who would bring peace and prosperity. Well, not really peace and prosperity. What it
Power
is, what it
control.
is essentially there's a drug that the Bene Gesserit can take, but only the women have been able to successfully take it thus far, and it allows them to view the memories from their DNA and their lineage. But because it's they have the double X chromosome, they can't access any of the male lineage. So they think one day there will be a male Bene Gesserit who can access both sides of the lineage factor and be able to see everything and have that expanded extra knowledge.
Yeah.
But everyone who's tried to take this potion has died who's male. So they haven't found the Chosen One yet. And Paul's everyone, not everyone, but a lot of people are subtly hinting oh, Paul Atreides, he's the one.
He's the one, yeah.
And the Bene Gesserit have planted years and years ago, probably centuries ago in terms of the relative space timeline. But have planted like legends of a chosen Bene Gesserit who will come to the planet one day in case any Bene Gesserit end up on the planet and need it out. They can have basically these people who have been led to believe into this superstition and think once they see like the checks being checked off, they'll be like, oh, okay, we gotta help this person because they show someone. So it's kind of mischievous. But yeah, so basically all of this is going on and there's a traitor in the House of Atreides, which I hate that they don't really bring this up before it happens. Especially since it's like a known thing in the book. And the David Lynch version also, they acknowledge that there's a traitor, but they don't reveal who it is, so at least you have that kind of tension and waiting for it. But it turns out to be Dr. Yue. He's a doctor. The movie...
Dr. Yue's a doctor?
Yes. He's like an imperial doctor. The movie doesn't really get into it, but they're like, specifically, there's like a reason why no one really suspects him. It's because like, they're supposed to be like kind of they go through like this program where it's supposed to be like they genuinely can't hurt people or else they like get physically sick, but the Harkonnen had like taken him and broken him of his training like long before he had ever gotten in contact with the Atreides, so he's basically been playing Deep Spy for years. There's a lot of like long game like stuff that happens in Dune where it's just like people...
I've been planning this for 742 years!
Yep. So Dr. Yue, kills a bunch of guards, puts down the fucking force field system, allowing for all the houses to basically just come in and blow up all their shit. Yeah. And he paralyzes Duke Leto, and he's like, all right, I've betrayed you, yes, but you're going to help me out, and in return, I'm going to help out, like, your son and your wife. And he takes off his, like, Duke ring, and he's like, I'm going to give this to your son. Here's a poison tooth. If you fight down on this at the right moment, you can poison Vladimir Harkonnen.
Yeah, the Baron.
Yes.
Stellan Skarsgård.
Yes, and who is also great in this movie, very intimidating. And yeah, so he that happens. He bites down, kills a room full of the Harkonnens, but Vladimir survives. He's like up in the corner, just like he's got this like anti-gravity thing that he does
on his
like,
spine. He just like floats around. He's a weirdo.
Yeah,
he's a fucking weirdo.
I mean, this one's pretty tame compared to some of the other ones that I've seen. Like the David Lynch one is pretty wild, and I haven't seen anything from either of the sci-fi ones. I've just generally heard things about them. But yeah, so he survives and kind of goes into like a healing thing. And he thinks that the entire Atreides bloodline is dead. So he's like, all right, well, let's go. Yeah. Resume the spice, but don't pick it up too fast because profit.
Yeah, because it'll just destroy the value pretty much, or like make it plummet for a bit.
Mm-hmm. So yeah. Meanwhile, Paul actually survived with his mother.
Yeah. He used the voice.
Yeah, he used the voice and got out of a sticky situation. Which the voice is a Bene Gesserit thing where they can basically like mind control people. It's kind of like the Jedi mind trick almost, but it's like
they usually use it to be like kill someone.
Yeah, it's usually a pretty quick thing. It's not like go. I mean, you can be like go do this. I guess it's kind of the same general.
A cup of water.
Same general concept, but Dune did it first, But they're also kind of different in the way they're portrayed. But yeah, so. Paul goes out to the desert. He's having lucid visions because the spice is like awakened, like futuristic visions in him that he's always kind of had. But
all the Atreides are dead except for him and his mother. And Duncan Idaho shows up, who we haven't talked about.
Yeah, Jason Momoa's
cool.
character.
Jason Momoa is really good as Duncan Idaho.
He is. I mean, I think that both Jason Momoa and blanking on his name, Dave Bautista. I think that they're both like good in the movie, but they're definitely playing to their types.
It's weird because I think Dave Bautista played a different type in like Blade Runner 2049.
He did. He played more of a quiet, kind of gentle giant type.
Well, he's like, nope, I'm gonna go aggro in this one.
Yeah. Which works. Yeah. It works for the character.
And I think it works for Duncan Idaho to be like that kind of charismatic, like big guy, but like,
I agree. So yeah, basically, they escape. From there, they come in contact. Basically, there's kind of like...
there's a lot that happens in this movie.
Yeah, it's a pretty dense movie. It's like 3.5 hours, and I've basically just been talking about... Oh, yeah, my bad.
But it feels like it's like 5, but in the best way.
According to Jason Momoa, there's like a 5-hour cut, which is
I want to watch it.
Yeah, I want to watch it too, especially since like...
If we can get the fucking Snyder cut, we should get the Villeneuve cut.
Honestly. Although, I don't...
Except he's probably not like...
He's probably not petitioning for it. He's probably like, no.
Because I'm like, this is my cut.
Yeah.
Or if my cut's like half an hour longer. The 5 hours sounds like an awful thing. I wouldn't want to release that.
Yeah. I hope they do. At the very least, I hope they release all the deleted scenes.
Yeah.
But yeah, so... there's basically like... Earlier, when they were checking out the spice mining thing that kind of got them into trouble, they had basically had like kind of like an intermediary person who's there, kind of like who's supposed to be like there to verify if there's any shady stuff going on, and she's basically been not paid off, but ordered by the Emperor not to say anything about like his apparent sabotage, or the Harkonnens' apparent sabotage of all their equipment. So she's like, just like, nah, like, just equipment's harsh out here, you know? Desert. And they're just like, well, fuck you. But she comes around and she's like, all right. Because you could tell Duke Leto got to her with his... There's the scene where he's like, damn, the spice saved the workers. And she's just like, all right, this guy's... Probably not all...
Better than the Harkonnens.
Not too bad. And then, yeah. So she's like, all right, I'll help his family out. And then she gets murked because of it. But, yeah. So Paul escapes deeper into the desert with his mother. Duncan Idaho, sadly, gave himself up in a heroic sacrifice.
He just fucking took out, like, 40 guys or something.
Yeah. And yeah, they make their way and they come across a group of Fremen. And Paul, in the last like quarter of the movie, throughout the whole movie, he's been having visions of Zendaya. And I don't remember her particular character's name. I'm not to her in the book yet either.
Chair? It's like something like that.
Yeah. But he's been having visions of her like throughout the whole thing, and towards the end, he starts having visions of
Chani.
Javis, is that the name of the one that he's like having all the visions of? Who's like, yes, I'm going to teach you great things.
Oh yeah, Jamis, I think.
But yeah, so he's having visions like that of this one particular guy, and then he meets this group of Fremen, and he's like, all right, like, they've pretty much, kind of like, they're just like, all right, yeah, we'll take you back to our, like, HQ, and we'll decide your fate from there. But he's like, no, I refuse. We need their body's moisture. And he's like, I'm gonna fight to the death. And then Paul's just like, all right, but he doesn't know it's a fight to the death when he takes him up
like,
on the offer.
He thinks it's a duel, he's like, okay.
Yeah, so he tries to kind of, like, just get him to secede, but he's just like, no, that's not how this works. So he ends up killing the guy, proving that, like, the visions are very unreliable.
Yeah, they're not certain. They're not certain events.
Yeah. You can tell that they're generally heading into a direction that might help out a little bit, but, like, I mean, earlier in the movie, he had said that he had a dream where, like, Duncan Idaho died, and that didn't... I mean, I guess that happened eventually, but in the circumstances he explained where it's like, you had made contact with the Fremen and then died in battle. So it's not quite how it
I guess that happened, but you're missing a big chunk in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's probably like one of my favorite aspects of this movie was like, because I don't think I've ever seen like a prophecy thing done where it's like an unreliable narrator quite like that. I've seen things where it's like, you think it's going to be this, And it is that, but like the way it gets that is like completely unexpected, but not quite like this where it's like he's got visions and then they just turn out to be like kind of straight up wrong.
Yeah.
Which I found to be super interesting.
I think it's more. I think it's interesting in the sense that, like, I just like when things like the future is not certain. Like you can change it with your actions, and I think that's a lot with. Like, I think Dune, this first part, I think is like really hopeful near the end. Like, you know, we can change it, we can make it better, and even the beginning, like how Leto wants to be. Like, there's a lot of hope to this movie. It's a nice change of pace from Denis' other works.
Well, if we get that trilogy he's asking for. I don't know what happens, but I've heard Dune Messiah is like a particularly depressing entry in the Dune series. Cool. So
that's probably why he wants to make it. He's like, I just want to make Dune 1 and 2 to make the really sad one.
Probably. He's like, I got a vision planned for a trilogy. And then he thinks the other books are too psychedelic and off in the weeds to be properly adapted, which... I mean,
I've heard the third book's like probably fun. I don't know.
I can't say because I haven't read.
But you're gonna read every Dune book, so
I ordered the 6-book box set, so I'm gonna read
the one by Frank Herbert.
Yeah, I'm gonna read those ones at the very least. Whether I go off,
I've heard the ones by his son of like prequels are rough.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll do that. I might just settle for the Bene Gesserit TV series they're gonna do.
I've heard the comic's pretty good. Yeah. The one going on right now.
I might check those out.
They have like 4 new Dune board games. 2 of them are just remakes of the original Dune board game.
Is that good?
I've heard that one's really good.
Might have to try that one out. But
yeah, Dune.
Dune. It's a dense, just kind of politics thrown.
Space politics is my favorite fucking thing in the world.
Yeah, I was getting a lot of like Gundam vibes from it when I was watching. And it's like, if they do a Gundam movie, it should get like this.
Denis Villeneuve should.
I think Steven Spielberg slated to direct the Gundam movie. I don't know if that's true.
100.
Yeah, and it's just like, I like Steven Spielberg. He can make some good movies sometimes, but like, I don't have faith in him.
It's not going to make it depressing enough.
Yeah, I think his stuff is ultimately like, most of it's
I haven't seen Schindler's List.
Way too safe. Schindler's List is like an exception, but that's the subject matter that they're fucking talking about there. It's kind of hard to have a safe, feel good version of that. But yeah, Dune. I've seen a lot of split results or mixed reviews. Like I've seen some people going like, it's a safe, generic space sci-fi movie. And then I've seen, like, the other people who are like, woo!
Yeah, dude! I'm definitely on the second one. I also don't think, like... I think that it's easy to watch, but I don't think it's, like, generic. I think it does have its own, like, aesthetic. It has what it's going for. And I don't think it's very safe. I think Denis is just really good at making things that are palatable for people. Mm-hmm. But I don't think it's like most big-budget sci-fi movies in, like, the slightest.
Yeah. No, I agree.
And I fucking love this movie. And that second time watching it, I had the same experience, like the same feeling I feel when I rewatch like one of my favorite Star Wars movies. Mm. And that is the greatest feeling I've ever had. Like discovering a new movie that feels that way. I'm like, holy fuck. I'm like, this movie's going to be with me forever. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I fucking love this movie. And I love the ending. Like, if they didn't make a part 2, I'd be fucking sad. But I think this movie does work on its own. Like, I think it's open-ended enough. I think, like, it does work as a movie.
I think it would work as, like, a gateway to the book. If it was just like this, that was all that existed of Dune, I'd be very sad.
No, me too.
I'd
but, like,
no.
Like, I know a lot of people are saying, oh, it feels like an incomplete movie. But at the very least, I think it feels complete. I think it stands on its own at the very least.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of people saying, like, it feels like the movie doesn't have, like, a climax. And I disagree. I think that's what the death battle at the end is.
I mean, obviously it isn't like a big action-packed scene like the older ones, but I felt like it was more personal and raw, and I think it works better as
especially since like the last hour of the film anyway, it all just been like a big action scene, practically, like from the fall of the House of Atreides, just survival trek through the desert. I mean, there's some scenes where it's like they're chilling in a tent, or Timothy Chalamet is trying to take peeks at his mom or something. But, you know.
Man, Rebecca Ferguson, fucking incredible in this movie.
Yeah, I thought she was great. I've seen a lot. She's probably the one I've seen the most, like, from book fans being like, "Mah," but I don't get it, honestly. Like, I'm reading the book, and I think... from what I've seen so far, it seems pretty good.
I really like her. She was in, like, Doctor Sleep. She's, like, the primary antagonist in that. Oh, okay. She's incredible in that movie.
I need to read that book so I can watch that movie.
No, but I thought she was fantastic. She was one of my favorite parts of the movie. There are so many parts, so I think the movie looks fantastic. I love the score. It's weird. Yeah, the
score is great.
It's overbearing at times, but in, like, the best way. Yeah, I fucking love this movie. I really, really dig it.
Yeah, no, I do too.
I'm probably going to watch it again soon.
Yeah, no, I probably will too. I think once I finish the book, I'll go back and I'll watch it again.
You'll be like, I fucking hate this movie.
Where's
Spade?
I don't think I'll hate the movie, but I think I will be less just like, I don't know. It's kind of, I'm sure I'll probably feel about this movie how I feel about the, like, Berserk trilogy minus the bad animation. Yeah. Obviously, the production quality on this movie is very top-notch.
Denis Villeneuve should do the live-action Berserk movie.
Dude, he'd be a great pick to direct those movies, if anyone. Because at least I would know it would turn out good, at the very least. But, like... where it's like, yeah, it's probably going to be just like the greatest hits of trilogy, but that's fine. That totally works. Yeah. I'm totally down for something like that acts as a gateway to the bigger source material.
Yeah, like the Dune book, even in 2 parts, seems like it's a little much to adapt with and keep everything that you would want, I guess.
Yeah, no, it'd probably, like, a proper adaptation would probably need, like, a fucking big budget TV series, which, I mean... they're testing the waters with that Sisters of Dune, which is like the Bene Gesserit thing that they're doing or whatever. Which I guess wait and see how that turns out. See if that's as anywhere near as good as this is. But I'm fingers crossed. I hope it's at least very complimentary to it.
Yeah. But yeah, I like Dune.
Yeah, no, Dune's great. Glad I'm finally getting into it. It encouraged me to crack open that book that I've been trying to read for years, but just haven't mustered up the strength.
Yeah. 2 years until Dune 2.
Yeah. No, the entire, like, week, not the week, but, like, a while after watching the movie.
It was like, where's it confirmed?
I have to know what happens next.
Yeah.
Authentically, I can't. I'm
not gonna read the synopsis.
Yeah, and it's like, I've decided not to, like, watch the sci-fi ones till after I finish the books.
That's fair. I think I'm going to do the same thing.
But I'm excited to watch this because I hear those are actually, aside from how they look, I hear those are actually pretty good.
I have heard pretty similar things. So, yeah, I'm excited to see them.
And James McAvoy's in one of them, so it's like...
Really?
Yeah, he's in the children.
He's like 12.
No, he's older than that at the time.
He's like 12. I just forget he's like 40 now.
Yeah.
Something like that. But yeah. You would give this one a 9.
Mm-hmm. You would give this one a 10.
I would. Yeah. Yeah. I think this is my favorite Denis Villeneuve film. And then on Sunday. Because it's like, I can watch this movie a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's real hard. I think if I had to rank it, I'd still put Blade Runner first.
That's fair.
Maybe Prisoners second, and then this one. But they're like neck and neck, really. It would just depend on my, like, mood at the time.
Yeah, that's fair. I think I would put Dune, then Incendies, then Prisoners, and then Blade Runner, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then Enemy, and then Polytechnique, and then Arrival.
That's fair.
But yeah. Okay. Let's roll some dice.
Yeah. Let's see if we're going to watch something good or something bad.
Oh, I never... Okay.
It's 2 and 2, 4. What are the rules?
I thought it was 2 through 4. We do a bag.
I thought it was if it's above a certain number.
Oh, no, it was lower.
Oh, if it's... Okay. Well,
fuck you, Thomas. We're going to the back.
Damn. Do you want to know what it would have been?
Sure.
Would have been the new scenes from a marriage.
I know.
Oscar Isaac.
All right. I'm vetoing the bag. We're guaranteeing the bag next week.
Sounds good. I'm down for that.
Guaranteeing the bag, but we're going to watch the new scenes from Marriage.
Because it just finished like a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
And it's just
I forgot. Yeah. Oscar Isaac, Jessica Chastain, right? Is that
I think so. And it's like, I'm excited. I'm probably going to rewatch the old one just to refresh because it's been a while since I've seen it. And I'll finally watch Saraband. I think that's what it's called. The conclusionary movie to the old miniseries that came out several years later. And then, I'll watch the new series and hopefully like it. Hopefully I like it. Hopefully I
love it. I've heard great things from
I generally don't want to welcome with open arms the idea of yes, American remakes of all these great foreign things.
But I'm like, Oscar Isaac.
Oscar Isaac.
Also, at this point, I'm like, okay, it's been 40 years. That's whatever.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily I think there's enough. If it's set in present day, I think there's some stuff they could do with it, I guess. So.
I guess. I'm kind of under the guise of why don't you just make a different movie about a different
marriage story.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But if they want to ride the brand and it's
everyone's favorite brand, the scenes from a marriage.
You know it's a
big brand that they need that.
I mean, it's no Star Wars, but it's got its film student following, Yeah. So they're probably just they know people will watch it.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll do that, and then we'll do the bag.
Mm-hmm. Sounds good. So we do need to finish off this bag. It's got 4 things in it still. I feel like every time I'm like, it's 4. You're like, no, it's 6. Is it 6?
It's 4.
Oh, thank God. I was like, I don't want 6 things to be in that bag, but we're just going to refill it once it's empty anyway. So
there's even worse stuff.
Yeah, I've got on Letterboxd, I got a private list of my next bag picks already. So
it's just a Doug Walker movie.
No. I'll give you one spoiler for one of my picks. It's a Christian movie starring Hayden Christensen.
Oh, is it...
I don't know the name of it off the top of my head, but it's one where he's a teenager. It's supposedly the role that got him that
is it
George Lucas.
Bad?
I don't know. I've heard.
Is it Life as a House?
I don't know. I was like, this looks like I don't like Christian movies.
It's fair.
So,
all right, we did it. I just farted. It's about to get very stinky in here. Bye, everybody. Woo!